All right, welcome to Little Jim Big Heart, second episode of our interview series. We have my good friend and co-owner of Varsity House, Jim, as well as Varsity VHPT, Varsity House Personal Training. They are scaling their small group personal training business. These guys are legends in the Jersey area. They've got an immaculate facility. And I brought Dan Goodman because there's a few things that he does in his business that I think are exceptional with building a team and leading a team that I've called upon him to share with you. So Dan, thanks for joining us. And why don't you give kind of the 10-second overview of your background and who you are?
Oh man. Well, thanks for having me, Devin. The feeling's mutual. We draw a tremendous amount of inspiration from you, and just off the heels of this weekend, I actually got roped into doing a 6 a.m. podcast with the Z-Man and Joe. And on that show, we were talking about a lot about what you
Cool.
talked about, and just the psychology of the 4 R's, which I know your listeners know all about. But 10-second elevator pitch on me. Like you said, I'm Dan Goodman, born and raised in New Jersey. I started with Varsity House in 2006 as a client. 2008, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to be involved with the gym. I pitched Joe on the idea of working together, partnering up, and he was stupid enough to let me do that. And this is the only big boy job, so to speak, I've ever had. We've trained. All I did was train people for 10 years, honestly. And then one thing led to the next. We had some success, and then we got, professional assistance with our accountability chart, our marketing. And now I sit in the CEO role for Varsity House Gym, Varsity House Personal Training. And we obviously have the business of strength. And, every day we're showing up, trying to put our best foot forward and grow this thing. And, I can honestly say that going into year 16, I love what I do, and I'm super grateful that I'm on the phone right now with a buddy talking about strength and conditioning. I mean, it gets no better, So it's pretty damn cool that this is our job. So thanks for having me, Devin.
I agree, man. And the thing that I like about this industry is as big as you get, like you're leading consulting groups, you're leading multiple facilities. You still have to stay kind of grounded in the strength and conditioning and like the training side.
Yeah.
So it's like you can't build a restaurant without, talking about the food. And that's what I love about it. I don't think that it'll ever change. Like I think you'll always, get to be in that world of like talking strength training.
Yeah. And we had the circus events, the strength events. I was fired up to watch that. I mean,
Yeah.
people lose sight, I think, why they got into the industry in the first place. And, for me, I was a kid that was, not that great at sports, overweight, insecure. And then I just started hanging around the weight room. And it sounds super corny and cliche, but like the stronger I got, the better my self confidence got. Then I found a sport where it celebrated big guys, and I got good at blocking people. And then it really changed my life. But the catalyst for it all was the weight room.
Yeah. And I'm the same way. And, I kind of the opposite background without, talking too far into backgrounds. I was always, athletic build, and I liked it because I was naturally good at it. But I just found I became obsessed with like getting better at it.
Yeah.
And then, in the industry, like seeing what it can do for people.
Oh, it's nothing better.
Yeah. So let's go by the numbers. You've got a team of how many people? Your tenure in an industry where it's hard to make a living, as a coach. You've maintained a fucking awesome team of people. I mean, you've got people that have been with you for, and you can go by the numbers, but it's different. I mean, your team is awesome.
Thank you, man. Yeah. So we have, by the numbers, it depends on, seasonality. We still have interns every summer. We'll take on some additional part-time help to help with some of the spillover that like team training. Our main location still does team training to an extent. So we'll have anywhere from 16 to 20 team members at all times. And we have, depending on what's going on, excluding Joe and myself, 10 to 12 full-time team members. And like you
That's
said,
at
we
Varsity
have,
House.
that's in general, that's
Okay,
all
that's total.
told with the three gyms. And then we have part-time help, but even some of the part-time help, like, a guy like Joe McNerney. Joe McNerney came here as an athlete, interned, and has worked part-time in some capacity with us since 2011. He's a school teacher, wanted to go that route, and he works here 3 days a week after school and every other Saturday. And he could, and I've been trying to recruit him to the dark side for years to come full time, but um, he's a stud. He could run a gym anywhere, and he's a great guy. I mean, we've had Coach Mike. I mean, Mike's been here. He's our facility leader in Orangeburg. He's going into year 16. For a long time, we've had over right now we have over 5 team members that have been with us for over 10 years. Another 3 that have been with us for over 3 years. So, I look at it, I probably should do a better job of keeping inventory on like anniversaries because I know they mean something to people. But I believe it's more than like a watch or a trip or recognition. It's just, I genuinely appreciate people that are committed to what we're doing here. And you prove that. I mean, we've heard it before, and Vince talks about it a lot, but leadership doesn't happen in a day, it happens daily. And I think respecting
That's a
people on
writer
your
downer
team,
right there.
yeah, it does though. I mean, you can't be on sometimes and off others. Like I really every day, I don't feel like coming here every day, but I know like when I get out of the car, my number one client or clients are the people that I work with. So I have to be our interpersonal code of conduct is swift, smile, work the room, instigate success, find a friend, be thankful. Our team projects that to our clients. I project that to our team every damn day, whether I fucking feel like it or not.
Right.
And that level of appreciation, I think I mean, it's hard to say when you're thinking introspectively and talking out loud about it, but it's definitely built buy-in because people are appreciated here, genuinely appreciated.
Yeah, and it's an important point that you made. It's not like it's not gifts. It's not like it's not anything superficial. There's a meaningful appreciation that I think can be felt, and I think that like I called you up and I'm like, dude, I'd love to talk to you about what you do as a leader, and I think you probably were like me, like I'm not a leader, because it is who you are. Like you give a shit about people, but that is what leadership is. I think it's even in your values: humble, hungry, and smart. Right? You are very humble, and I think that's what makes you a good leader. You know, hearing the idea of leadership, like what does that even mean to you?
When you asked me in the original email to be on the show, it's like, hey, I think like one of the things you do exceptionally well is leading your team, and you just hit the nail on the head. I don't think about it like that. I really don't. Um, I try, and being a great leader to me is, first of all, it really comes back to values. It's knowing like I'm hungry to win more now than ever before. And I think that there's leadership baked into that. Like, yes, my role has changed, but people seeing that, okay, the owners or the leaders, so to speak, here on the accountability charter, they're still getting after it.
Right.
Today I had to get on the podcast at 6 in the morning. Like the only time I could train today was 5 in the morning. So I got my ass here and I did it, and that has an effect on people. Is humility is huge because the minute that you believe you've arrived is the minute that you start to regress. And humility it can't be fake, right? Like you have to have a sense of confidence and knowing that like, you're okay to stand on your own 2 feet and make a real decision. But humility that it's like, dude, at this point, like I work for this company, right? I'm an employee here. If I don't do my job, like, and I drop the ball on something, I'm going to let people know about it. Like, I have no reservations with doing that. The commitment and socially smart commitment is we spend more time and money on education now than we ever have. So that's rubbed off on our peers.
Yeah.
And being socially smart, don't be a dick. Like honestly, like it seems so simple, but it's like teaching you have two children, and it's like, what's the number one thing? You have to teach your kids manners, like please, thank you, you're welcome, hold doors for people, things that get lost or taken for granted. It's the compounding effect of doing that day after day after day. And that to me is great leadership. You do not need to be the CEO of a company to be a great leader. Hell, I was a mediocre offensive lineman in college, but I knew, like, from the servant mentality, like, dude, if I do my job, if I help the guy next to me do his job, then our quarterback can pop a touchdown and we win the game. And I never scored a touchdown or carried the ball in my whole life, but I saw that if I did a decent enough job, you would be celebrated in other ways. And I think leading teams in an organization is very similar.
Yeah, and you mentioned a few things in it. When I think leadership, that had a big revelation years ago because I was when I started really understanding what leadership was, I was like, shit, like I'm a bad leader. And this was a while ago. I think I've done a lot of work on myself, but it's like me being kind of a visionary, idea guy is not great leadership because it doesn't give other people the chance to elevate when I have all the answers. And so I really had to like decide, make a conscious decision, like, how I was going to work on that. And one of the things I heard this, that Rob Gilbert is a sports psychologist at Montclair State. I saw him speak years and years ago. And he told this like little story about somebody and their fairy godmother. I won't go into that story, but it was the overall idea was, people don't work for companies because they think the founder is like the best. They work for companies because the founder thinks they are the best.
Hmm.
Right. So instead of trying to be the guy that's like this guru, like I'm an influencer, I'm the smartest guy in the room, people want to work for people that say, man, I'm here because Dan thinks I'm worthy of being here. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's what you do really well. I mean, dude, you've checked me on a lot of things like being grateful for, things that are going on in my company when I might be frustrated because it's not moving fast enough. Or, like you've brought a very good approach with like just gratitude for the people that
Yeah.
work for you. And I think that emanates and people really are drawn to that. So that's what I
Well,
think, as humble as it makes you, and maybe you feel like silly, talking about, your leadership prowess, but I think it is that same nature that makes you, a great leader.
yeah. Well, thanks, man. The one thing I wrote down what you just said, and if I could give maybe another writer downer for people, like when I think about the word leadership, it's also knowing, like you, great marketers talk about like what are the conversations happening inside your clients' heads, like what are they, right? And it's you have to start solving those problems. But as an employer of people, what are the conversations happening inside your employees' heads? And I think the number one thing for most people as it pertains to especially working in a small business is security. Like, is this a real place? Is this going to be around? Is this even a real job? You could be the owner of a gym and every freaking Christmas rolls around, your aunt's like, hey, you still doing the gym thing? When are you getting a real job? How do you think it feels for somebody that works for that gym and doesn't own it? Which the person that works in the gym might make more money than the owner. And in a lot of cases, I'm sure they
Yeah.
do. But it's what's the conversation happening? The number one thing, in my opinion, that people crave is security. And security comes in the form of you're being harsh on yourself, but it's like sometimes just slowing you down to be like, dude, like just giving people, just knowing that you're around and you're available, like, is so important. Knowing that, like, oh, this guy's not checked out or not onto the next thing, or I haven't seen them in 3 years. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lack of security in that sense, where when people don't know where the spaceship is going, or they're worried that it's going to change on a dime, that creates anxiety. And I think when people are riddled with anxiety, they can't perform to their to their capability.
And you're right, man. I mean, this goes into a lot of different areas, but you just think of like the mental bandwidth, right? If they have stress about money, if they have stress about job security, if they have stress about whatever else, their health, their family, whatever, like the more things you can relieve that are tugging on that bandwidth, the more they're going to be able to give to the job, to the company, to, the others around them. So that's definitely something that is a great takeaway. Like being able to, so how would you go about, let's talk about that. Like how do you bring or enforce security for your team?
So the simplest way, might sound very stupid, but the simplest way is cadence with how you communicate with them is huge. Because if somebody has a question or whatever, like, you don't have to be dismissive. You'd be like, hey, like, I totally got you, Dev. Like, let's we got our meeting on Friday. Let's make sure we shelf it till then, unless it's like the building's burning down, and we'll solve that. Absolutely. Let's make sure it's on the Google document and we'll get to it. Another thing is, like, when you are speaking with people, this should be, I don't know, like communication 101. When I'm speaking to people on our team, unless it's a one-off thing where people are like knocking on the office door, or like I'm running out the building, like if I have a scheduled event with somebody, I'm with them fully. I'm not on my phone. I'm not looking at my computer. I'm not listening to music. I'm not watching ESPN in my office. I'm speaking to that person. I'm making eye contact with them, and I am hearing them,
Right.
and I'm listening. And that is a humongous, in terms of building rapport and trust, is like, dude, you got to listen up, and you got to know where they're at, and
Well, let me stop you because
have,
there's a few
yeah.
there's a few like ways that I have made a point to do this, but I
Mm-hmm.
think is important to touch on. So, great book, The Inspiration Code. I got this from was so you said when you have a meeting with them, you are fully present, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think hopefully everybody agrees to do that. Now let's talk about the meeting. So in this book, you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned like they can't read your intention, even if you're present. They have no idea. So sometimes it helps to like when somebody comes in and meets with me, sometimes I'll take my phone out and I will put it out on the table upside down. Like I'll
Mm-hmm.
make almost like a symbolic gesture of like
Mm-hmm. I love that.
I'm here. And I do it because I want them to see me doing it and putting my phone down and turning towards them. Now, on the other side of this is like a lot of shit pops up without a scheduled meeting, right? So somebody pops in and they do have an issue. The best thing you can do is, and this applies to like sales and all other contexts, is manage the expectations. Be like, hey, I do have a meeting in 20 minutes. So I've got a 10-minute runway here. Is that cool? Or do you want to follow up? Like,
That's great. I love that.
that's leadership. Because then again, you're going to get squirrely towards the end of that. And they can't read your mind. They're going to think you're like not focused, but really you just didn't tell them you had another thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Managing expectations, something that I'll do before every town hall is I'll say, hey, I expect you to be here with me for the next 45 minutes. You know the drill. If it's really important, keep your ringers on, have family members call. And like, almost like a running joke now, because I have gotten phone calls be like, sorry, hang on a second. And unless it's a family member, I'm not answering.
Yeah. I love that, man.
So,
I want to touch on that because most people, and I see this in my team, they they avoid that statement. And I think that statement alone is so powerful. Just being like, hey, my expectation is that you're here fully focused for the next 45 minutes. You hear that when you go to events. You hear
hmm,
that when you go to like take a class or a course. But that just adds a bit of gravity to like, oh shit, like this isn't just something casual that I'm here for. Like I love that.
The thing with, and I'll bring it back to them because there were questions happening too frequently in, chats, like text message chats on Slack, email. I'm like, yo, and that was the inception of town hall. Like, why don't we just like review this,
Yeah.
create a PowerPoint, share it with people, and use it as a reference where I'll let people know, like, hey, listen, if you can spend 45 minutes with me right now, you will save yourself hours over the course of the next month.
Yeah.
So let's be efficient because, our business at this point, we're not like reinventing any wheels. All we're trying to do is simplify and create efficiencies. So in order to do that, we need to free up time. So making sure that there is gravity, as you called it, to the conversation has helped.
And I think touched on because I love this, man. I mean, I think this is something that I've never even thought to really do in these meetings, but what you're doing is exhibiting control and composure because think you step up to a town hall and everyone's kind of like filtering in, they're on their phones, they're unpacking their bags. Like you're going to be frustrated in that moment. There's going to be like you're not going to be fully focused. So you are like taking control of the moment in that thing. And again, I think a lot of people shy away from that, but that's a great leadership tactic is like, hey, here's what I expect from this. And another one that I have not done, but this gives me, this is pushing me over the edge to do it. It's like we do a weekly call. A lot of it's on Zoom, or if we do Zoom level 10s with our remote facilities or our leadership meetings, is starting a meeting with like, hey, listen, we expect your cameras to be on. If you can absolutely cannot have your camera on, like let us know in advance. But the expectation is that you're here, your camera's on, and you're showing us that you're focused. I think just that little statement is like, boom, like we're fucking in it now.
Dude, I mean, I would never be on a Zoom with one or two people ever, or even five, and have my camera off ever. So I mean, we're not at a point where we're running a lot of meetings on Zoom. We're still pretty local. Uh, and yeah, I mean, yeah, you got to be present, man. You
And
got
I
to,
think
that's,
it also there's the weight of doing that in the outset versus halfway through. Be like, can we turn our cameras on, guys? Like, what are we doing here? Come on. Like,
yeah, you seem almost
got a
like
standard.
pissed and desperate midway through. Like
Yeah.
there's no collaboration.
Yep. So I think like establishing that like you're maintaining control and you've got a standard. Like, hey, listen, when we do this, I expect everybody to be focused. That means cameras on. Listen, if you cannot have a camera on for I don't know why somebody wouldn't. Uh you just got to let me know in advance because I need to know that you're here with me.
I love that. Yeah,
Um,
really good.
so I mean, we kind of talked about secure your approach with like security is important to leadership, but what are the other things that you make sure to do as a leader that you think are like, if you could only give somebody one piece of advice or one or two tactics that, can elevate yourself as a leader?
Well, leading a team is like leading a gym community. It's the same skill set, right? It is the same exact skill set. And part of it is always whether you're a great marketer or not. We were not great marketers when we first started the gym. The first 10 years, we were not great marketers externally, digital ads,
Right.
things of that nature. We weren't doing it, but we were excellent at exceeding the expectations for our clients, where it was like we were all about the results, a lot of follow up, a lot of events at the gym, referral opportunities. We were keeping it exciting and we were forcing them to have the conversation at the dinner table about what was happening at the gym.
Right.
The same thing applies. So this is a tactic. If you don't have an employee, if you do, whether you have 1, 5, 10, or you just want to lead a team, you have to think like, how can I exceed the expectation for my team? And that's something that we think about a lot. How are we exceeding the expectation? And that could come in the form of uh, work quality conditions, apparel, their schedules, um, insurance, retirement savings, education, educational opportunities. There's different things that move the needle for people, but a lot of time and effort, especially now that we're getting towards year end, is goes into, all right, how can I create more career trajectory that gets people excited about working here? I mean, as recently as last month, I said, hey man, can we talk about some comp structure? I want to make sure we're crossing our T's, dotting our I's, that people are made whole on the salary side before I start getting super concerned about other fringe benefits.
Right.
Because you have to, like, at the end of the day, you have to pay people a fair wage, right? Like, if you don't, there's going to be resentment over periods of time.
Yeah.
So, the exceeding the expectation, although broad, it's a mindset where you have to be thinking about, all right, like, I've talked about it the last seminar, like, would I want to work for me? Is this an environment that I would enjoy coming to? And being very candid with yourself, I mean, it sometimes could hurt, because I know at certain times we've lost great team members because we had an environment that was like not projecting growth or change. And you know,
Now, what do you
we
mean by
learned
that?
from that.
What do you mean? Like, if you could be, without maybe giving away specifics, like, what do you mean by you had an environment that wasn't conducive for growth?
Yeah, so that's good. So we had one facility for since 2006, and we did not expand the footprint of the facility until 2020. And that's 14 years. We had people that had been working with us at that point for 7, 8, 9 years. And we as a company were like, yeah, like, we're growing, like, we're doing all these cool things. Like, there's a shitload of opportunity for people, but there really wasn't
Right.
anymore. And eventually it was like, hey, like, I've stuck around and things really haven't changed all that much. And that was the truth, where we probably should have, not that people, I want to make sure that people listening to this get this straight. People are going to leave your organization. I don't want people to think like, oh, you're going to keep everybody forever. I wish we would have been able to do it cleaner than we had and helped people with like a positive exit to the next thing, where it was almost like, as a younger person, I was like, oh shit, I was disappointed, and I might have been had held some level of resent, as probably they did, as well. But
And it probably,
it
what I've seen is when you're not super forthright and super transparent, people make up their own stories. And if you don't
exactly.
tell them exactly, like, yeah, we're growing, like, but you're not talking to them about exactly how they are growing, or, hey, when we hit, 200 members, you're going to go from here to here. In their head, they're going to be like, man, they're saying they're growing, but nobody's talked to me about what that means. So
Exactly.
I get what you're saying by, like, you don't wish you could go get those people back, but maybe you wish that they didn't leave because they made up a story in their head that wasn't actually true.
That's a great point. And that's exactly the point that, I was trying to reiterate, where you can't keep everybody forever. But again, now we run a company that we are completely open book. At year ends, we let people know exactly where the company is, exactly where they're going. And then they're able to make the decision on, is this the path that I still want to be on? And we can all be on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't honestly, I don't know how you can run a business without being at least like majority open book. Um,
Yeah,
we're very open. Um, I think we resist, hold back from like some of the exact profits, because I think it goes over a lot of people's heads anyway. But
same.
it's like, hey, here's our revenue, here's the percentage where we're at. Like, this is our payroll percentage. Like, this is what it means. The and we just try to make a point to be very intentional about, like, this is a business. Like, I want you to make more money. this is our payroll cap. It's 35% of our top line revenue.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we're at. Um, yeah, I mean, so you've talked about
I
providing.
had that conversation yesterday. I
Yeah,
literally had that conversation yesterday. I said, listen, for every $100,000 we make in revenue, we are willing to pay out 35,000.
it's not that you're willing.
That's
It's
what it can afford.
that's all that's all there is. Like
Right.
getting people to understand that, because I think even saying we're willing to, like, I think that gives not enough credit to like your
The
ability to
budget.
run a healthy business. Yeah, like
Right.
that's all we got, guys. Yeah, technically we could pay more than that, but everybody suffers when we do that.
Mm-hmm.
So providing stability, providing transparency, and just being open book with people. Um, how do you give them opportunity?
So now we run a bastardized version of EOS where we have people sitting in seats and owning certain seats in our business. So if you sit in a leadership position, you are going to have, you're going to have a healthy income as it relates to our industry. We have 3 facility leaders, which are great. They're great positions, really strong positions. And then we give people, so um, the book Profit Works, which is, stems from EOS as well. I love that book. And it talks about creating incentives. And we go out and we try and hire former athletes. We've hired former military. We're trying to find people that want to compete. And once you have the standard salary squared away and the fringe benefits with PTO, things like that, retirement savings account. If you have the right person and you give them a very clear and simple incentive structure, that person is going to want to go chase that down for the money, but as much for the feeling of fulfillment of achieving the goal and the recognition that comes with it. And you can see that in certain people, and that comes down to our core value of being hungry. Like, are you hungry because you want to make an extra $1,500 a quarter, or are you hungry because you want to be a freaking winner? And
Now, let's touch on this, because not only what you're doing is you're giving them an opportunity, but you're also you're putting the ball in their court. It's like, hey man,
yes,
the opportunity's there. You got to go fucking get it. Like,
mm-hmm.
so you're avoiding at the end of the day them feeling like, oh well, I wasn't getting paid fairly, or like you're being transparent. You're like, this is what it is. Here's how you can earn more in your role because of what it does for the business. Go fucking get it. There's no ceiling.
Yeah. I don't think that a lot of people should be. I really don't believe a lot of people should be entrepreneurs. I mean, I don't know if that goes against the grain of the show, um, but I do believe that a lot of people can be intrapreneurial, where they are, hey, this is the line that you want me on, and they can go full gas on that line, and they excel tremendously. And they are people that have resilience, and they can be dogs. They just need to be put on the priority track. And for us, yeah, we have every single person in this company from part-time to facility leader is on an incentive plan. The incentive plan, for without going into too much depth, it's, hey, it's good, it's better, it's best. It's clear as day. If we do this, you get paid that. If we do this, you get paid the next rung. And if we do none of this, you get paid nothing.
Well, let's if, without getting, maybe giving away salaries and specific comp plans, give a little more granularity to that, and then we can wrap up, because I know you got to get out. But incentive
so
plan,
I could, yeah.
As a coach, so if somebody's listening to this, they've got an employee or a team of employees, and they're like, all right, I got to create an incentive plan. How specifically can they execute on that for their business? Like, what do the numbers shake out to look like? How do you measure it?
So this would be for a mature business. Let's say a business that's been in business for 5 years. has had kind of the same clients, kind of a very similar growth. Because if you're listening to this in your startup, things are going to be different. Like Devin starting an Engage facility, the year 0 to year 2, the business changes tremendously. I'm talking about an Engage facility that's been open for 3 years and is kind of doing what it's doing. You could take the let's say the growth rate, your projected growth rate is 10%. And let's say you're a business that's doing $500,000 a year. So you're projecting that you're going to do an extra 50,000 in business.
Well, yeah, let's go on. Let's give just clear numbers. So let's say you're doing 30,000 a month in revenue.
Yep.
You're like, all right, I want to blow it up a little bit. How are you creating an incentive for a team member? Like how would you do the benchmarks? And then what would you tell them they're responsible for, and how do you compensate that?
So I would say, okay, what is the capacity? Like, how much more room do we have in this gym? Okay, we think we have room for 10 more clients. All right, 10 more clients at a $300 a month price point. That's $3,000, right? So you could say, hey, the benchmark number one, like our expectation is we're going to add 10 net members this year. Our expectation is 33,000. If we add 15, we're going to be adding whatever that math is, 34,500. If we add 20, it's going to go to 37. And there's your good, better, best. And what I would do in terms of the compensation, I would use the same budget formula. So if we add 7,000 in total revenue, I'm going to use 35% of that earmarked for the employees working in that business. If there's 2 employees
of the overage,
35%.
Okay. So as a company, you're like, I know that the goal is to grow, we want to grow 10% this year. But if we grow 15%, that 5%, you take 35% of that 5% as the bonus.
No, if we grow by 10%, I'm going to earmark 35% of that growth in incentives.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So that you're assuming that the business is not going to grow, right? Without
if it's right. That's the assumption that, hey, if you grow year over year at 10%, like you're healthy, right. As a mature business, you're healthy.
And I think that's what. So that's kind of where we always base it off of the expectations that we're going to grow 10. So we kind of always base it off that. So if a business was listening, because I think this is a really important distinction, because a lot of people may be like, yeah, we're good here. And, it's a lifestyle business for them, but they want to give more to their team. That's an example of kind of what you mentioned. But if they are like expecting to chip away and they're growing at 10%, but they want to also give a little extra to their team, would you do like, hey, if we grow 20%, 35% of that 10% gap?
Yeah, 100%. Our facility leaders and somebody in a sales role has reach goals that are straight up revenue based, that would essentially be, if we had achieved the reach goal in all 4 quarters, there's going to be a fifth incentive or bonus at the year end to say, wow, like we went 4 for 4 on our goals. Here is an extra payment for your service.
Do a payout annually?
That one is annual. Yeah. We pay all of our incentives quarterly. I believe anything longer, it kind of loses its luster. It's like it's just too far out there for people. We took your 4Rs and we have ran it, the reactivation, referral, review, and internal upgrade challenge. We've done it twice a year. In 25, we're going to do it every quarter, because we also pay out a short term. Hey, here's the expectation. Here's what would be good. Here's what would be great. And we pay out, it's $100 for step 1, $200 step 2, $300 step 3. The thing is, this is what I know. If we smash that competition quarterly, we're probably going to hit our quarterly revenue goal and our membership goal. So we're going to do that quarterly. So we have sprint goals, we have quarterly goals, and then those lead to our annual goals. And with somebody that's sharing on an annual goal, this is what I'll say about that. You asked about what they need to do. They really need to own revenue generating activity. They have to, right? Like they have to be selling on the phone. They have to be contributing in marketing.
Yeah.
They have to be a line of defense in their facility for the majority of client facing issues. They got to be the person there that knows how to get shit done.
So if they're not, then you would move to the 90-day incentives. I mean, maybe I
Yeah.
misheard the point you were kind of
No,
getting.
I'm saying like that facility, the person that's in charge at that facility is going to they have more pressure, so they're going to also have um a higher ceiling for earnings on the incentives.
Got it. So I love, dude. I think this is a great tactic as a leader because it encapsulates so much. You're showing people that there's growth here, providing stability. You're giving them kind of a carrot and showing them like, hey, you can go and earn more. It's up to you to like produce. And it's pretty tactical. So what are the things that you're incentivizing? Let's say, again, use an example of business owner, gym owner. They've got,
Mm-hmm.
3 employees that are all just full-time coaches. Like, is there a tactic like, all right, you get this because you're doing this, or is it just divided in thirds?
Yeah, it's thirds. I wish it was. People will have individual key performance indicators, and they're measured on their performance individually. And if somebody was on a performance improvement plan, that they will not share on the incentive, but it is not as granular as you might think. If there's a small team, if you're a small business, everybody's helping, like everybody's it's like, okay, Devin, you're the sales guy, but I'm the head coach. Like, I see these people all the time. I'm making as many referrals as you are making cold call sales. So like, what's the difference here?
Yeah. And you're not going to sell if I do a shitty job as the head coach.
That's right. That's right. So, yeah, I think it's hard to do that. So,
Yeah, don't if you're looking to install your first incentive plan, Profit Works is a great resource. Do not overthink it.
no,
Keep it very, very simple until you grow. But it's exploded our growth. And Dan, I know you got
totally.
here,
No,
but
there's one more thing that I wanted
yeah,
to say on that, Devin, is people the you brought it up and it made me think twice. It's like, okay, like so you're not incentivizing things to start at 10%. This is the reason why is I want us to catch victories because victories create momentum. And you look at a year like 2024 hasn't closed yet, so I won't count it. But 2023, the growth rate, in our most mature business in Orangeburg, we grew by 20%.
which
The
12, 16 years in, like that's unbelievable.
It was a huge growth year, but we caught a lot of wins early in the year and carried momentum into the year. This year, 24 is not projecting to do 20%, but we're still going to show growth and we still have 6 weeks to get there. So hungry to finish out strong, but if you're creating an incentive plan, the number one way to lose trust in a team is to hang a plan out there that is like nobody believes in.
Right.
That's like, dude, this is never going to happen. There should be a comfortable and healthy amount of tension, not like, oh, this dude's full of shit. We're never going to get there. And you
Stretch,
got to
not
give them
stand.
you got to give them, that's another great book. You got to give them the resources too. Hey, if you want to grow by 30% at an engaged location, I would say, as if I'm the facility leader and you're the owner or manager, I'd say, all right, Devin, like what resources are you going to be providing differently for us to get that? So,
And it's like if you do have a stretch goal, like a BHAG type goal, you've also got to give them the like, hey, this sounds crazy. You're going to grow by 80 members and this much revenue. But here's what it comes down to. Every week, all you got to do is, I like the 4 R's. If you just close one member a week, you're there. And it's like,
You're there.
oh, and then you give them the like actions in order to do so. So
Yep.
give them every resource, don't just throw them to the wolves. Cause again, they're going to be like, this isn't possible. And then they're going to roll over on it.
Yeah. Cool.
But Dan, I appreciate you coming out, man. You guys run unbelievable fitness businesses, but also business of strength. You guys just announced your sales event, which I'm fucking pumped to go to. I'm going to definitely, if I'm allowed to, I would love to bring some team members out.
Hell yeah.
And I love it sounds like what you're doing is like niche category based events. I love that because I mean, you guys are crushing it. So business of strength, definitely recommend you guys if you're looking for some coaching in fitness business. No matter where you're at. I mean, I learn a shit ton going to these events too.
Thank you, Devin. This was awesome. I was looking forward to being on the show, and you didn't let me down, man. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks, man.
See you.
Hey, guys. Thanks for watching. If you like this content, make sure that you like and subscribe to get more of the content that you want to see about growing your fitness business. You can click any of the videos here to see other episodes, but I want to hear from you. So drop some comments into other content that you would like to see.